long did Noah live after the flood? 350 years. Okay. And if y'all got to scratch sheet of paper or something, you can write that down or if you want to. Now, let's look at some more data. I'm going to be giving you some data, but I'm giving it to you for a reason. Okay? Genesis chapter 5. Yep, you have to go back a little bit. Genesis chapter 5, verse 32. So we got a few numbers already with Noah, how long he lived, and after the flood. So now we're going to get old. And Noah begat Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Okay. How old was Noah when he had his first son? $500, right? It's what the Bible said. And Noah was 500 years old, and Noah begat Shem, Ham, and Japheth. So there's another number. Now, how old was Noah when the flood came? 600, right? So those three children were born within 100 years of the ark being built. Are you following me? All right. Now, according to Genesis chapter 10, and y'all gonna be jumping around with me a little bit here. Genesis chapter 10, verse 21. Unto Shem also. Now, who was Shem? The son of who? Noah. Unto Shem also, the father of all the children of Eber, the brother of Japheth the elder, even to him were born children. Who was older than Shem? Japheth. His brother was older. So guess who was born when Noah was 500 years old? Japheth. Japheth would have been the firstborn son, right? And we talked about it last week. The reason Shem is mentioned first is because of significance, right? Because of the significance of Shem and his lineage. So, let's see. Now, let's look at Genesis chapter 11, verse 10. And I know I'm throwing out a lot of data, okay, and we'll kind of summarize it, but can you bring up the slide with the genealogy, please? And you can put that online as well. Genesis chapter 11, verse 10. These are the generations of Shem. Shem was 100 years old and begat Arphaxad 2 years after the flood. Sounds very interesting, doesn't it? So, Shem is the son of Noah. And Shem was how old when he had his first son? Based on that scripture, verse 10 of chapter 11. Shem was 100 years old and begat Arphaxad 2 years after the flood. He was 100. So how old was Shem when the flood ended? 98. Very good. 98, right? When the flood ended and Shem got off the ark, he was 98 years old. Now, if you do the mathematics that we've just been talking about, right? We figured that Noah had Japheth at 500 because it said at 500 years Noah began having those three children, and Japheth was the elder brother. So he probably had him when he was 500 years old. And Shem when he was 502. How do we know that? Because at 500 years he had Japheth. At 600 years he went on to the ark. right? That would have been 100 years. And if Shem was 98, then that means Noah would have been 502 when he had Shem. Y'all following me? Okay. Sounds very interesting, doesn't it? I am so sorry, I know. But if I'm going over this data, it's important to know. Sometimes when you're finding something hidden by God, it is a treasure to kings to uncover it. Remember that in Proverbs? It's a treasure for kings to uncover something that God has hidden in there. And so that's what we're doing. We're going to uncover some stuff here. All right. So Shem was 502 years old when he had... Yes. Yep. Noah was 502 years old when he had Shem. All right. The youngest of Noah's sons was Ham. Okay? In Genesis chapter 9, verse 24. And Noah awoke from his wine and knew what his younger son had done unto him. So the birth order was Japheth, when Noah was 500. Then Shem, when he was 502 years old. And then it was Ham. And we don't know exactly how old Noah was when he had him. We just know he was the youngest. And really, he's not of significance when it comes to the lineage of Jesus and stuff. So it's really irrelevant with Ham. But we know he was the youngest. All right. Now that we have that data, we can now make a genealogy. You see, you have to determine those ages and dates before you can do any kind of genealogy. Otherwise, you're just guessing. All right? So that's what we're doing. And then not only that, but you can determine what year it was. So if you look on the slide up here, right? If you trace Adam down to Noah, you will see that 1,056 years after the creation of Adam, Noah was born. Do you see that on the slide here? Everybody following me? If you go down and find Noah, you see that 1,056? That's how many years had elapsed on the earth. If you go to Adam, it says 0. Why does it say 0? Because that's when it started, right? Adam, he was first man, right? So that's year 0. All right, because it took 7 days. Year 0. Seth was born 130 years after Adam. Right? That's how old he was when he had Seth. Okay? Enos was born in the year 235. So now if you go down, you can see what year people were born. So, if Noah was born in 1056 and he entered the ark when he was 500 years old, what year did the flood come? Or was he 600? No. Yeah. What year did the flood come? Look right there. When did Methuselah die? 1656. So 1,656. Yeah, he was 600 years when he went on the ark, right? 600 years had passed. So if you look at, Noah, 1056, you add 600, you get 1656, which is the year the flood came. Y'all following it with that chart? If you're not following it, let me know, because I don't want you to miss this. Everybody understanding it? Let me do it again. 600 plus 9. No. No. So look right here. Do you see where Noah the first line on Noah, you see 1,056. Do you see that? That's what year it was. That's how many years had passed since Adam was created. Are you following me? All right, everybody's good there. The Bible tells us that Noah was 600 years old when he boarded the ark. So if you take when he was born, 1056, and you add 600 years, then you get 1656. And there's a line there showing you that the flood happened in 1656. You'll also see Methuselah. He was the oldest man at 969 years. And if you add when he was born, then you'll see he died when the flood came, 1656. Y'all following me now? Okay, now I'm seeing the light bulbs.
So what you're saying is the green, the colors, that's their lifespan.
Correct. The colors.
Born in the year prior to the colors, and they died the year after.
Correct. The number before the colors is the year they were born. The number in the color bars is how long they lived, and the number after the colored bars is the year they died. And you can trace it back for yourself. I've done it. It's valid.
Isn't it also how old they are? Their lifespan, that's how old, is that how?
If you look at Methuselah, that green bar says 969 years. That's how old he was when he died. So that's their age they lived to. And if you look on down, you see how after the flood, what happens to the time, the age span? It's reducing, right? So there's a significant atmospheric stuff's going on. The lifespan of man has decreased, right? As a matter of fact, you start seeing like 148 for Nahor, 205 for Terah, and Abraham was 175 years old. Yeah, yep, they are spread now. All right. All right, y'all are understanding the graph now. Good. So the flood came after 1,656 years had elapsed from the creation of Adam. If we go back 1,656 years from where we are today, what year would we be in? 13 what? Or no, 300 and something. It had been about 300 years after Jesus died.
1056, you said? What year did they go back to?
Yeah, in 1656, that's when the flood came. The year, 1656. So if we went back today, from today, 1,656 years, you know, that's like the year 369 or something like that. I didn't do the math, but that's a long time ago. What all has happened since 300 AD? A lot. So what all happened in all of those years? We really have no idea how many people were on the planet. We really don't understand everything that had transpired. We're just understanding the significance, the Word of God, and about God. But there was so much going on. The pyramids were built, right? There was a lot of stuff going on. Lots of stuff. That's a lot of time to elapse. Now, yeah, so the years are important. So it's 1,656 years before the flood. So I'm just going to write that down real quick for myself. 1,656 years before the flood. Because I'll probably use that later. Okay. Let's go to Genesis chapter 11. And we'll go to verse 10. And I've already read it, but I just want to go over it one more time. These are the generations of Shem. Shem was 100 years old and begat Arphaxad 2 years after the flood. Okay? The year would have been 1658. There you go. Now you're following me. 1658. And so now we can create a timeline from Noah to Abraham. So now we're going to get in some very interesting Bible reading. It's going to be a lot of begats. So in Genesis chapter 11, verse 10, These are the generations of Shem. Shem was 100 years old and begat Arphaxad 2 years after the flood. And Shem lived after he begat Arphaxad 500 years and begat sons and daughters. And Arphaxad lived 35 years and begat Selah. And Arphaxad lived after he begat Selah 403 years and begat sons and daughters. Now y'all can look on that timeline if you want to and kind of follow along with what I'm saying, okay? And Selah lived 30 years and begat Eber. And Selah lived after he begat Eber 403 years and begat sons and daughters. And Eber lived 34 years and begat Peleg. And Eber lived after he begat Peleg 430 years and begat sons and daughters. And Peleg lived 30 years and begat Reu. And Peleg lived after he begat Reu 209 years and begat sons and daughters. And Reu lived 32 years and begat Serug. And Reu lived after he begat Serug 207 years and begat sons and daughters. But wait, there's more. And Serug lived 30 years and begat Nahor. And Serug lived after he begat Nahor 200 years and begat sons and daughters. And Nahor lived 29 years and begat Terah. Now that name should ring a bell. That name should ring a bell to you. Who was Terah? Abraham's father. Look at there. And Nahor lived after he begat Terah 119 years and begat sons and daughters. And Terah lived 70 years and begat Abram, Nahor, and Haran. These are the generations of Terah. Terah begat Abram, Nahor, and Haran begat Lot. Clear as mud? Everybody got the timeline? Everybody good? How old was Terah when Abraham was born? How old was Terah when Nahor was born? Same verse, right? 70? How about Haran? He was fast, wasn't he? So that should tell you all three of those sons were not born to one wife in 1 year. No, he did not have 3 kids when he was 70. He did not. Matter of fact, he didn't have Abraham when he was 70. Now, most people, even your slide here that shows the thing, I think they made an error, and I'll tell you why when we get there. But what it says is, all it says is, Terah was 70 years old, and then he had 3 sons. So we know at 70 years old he had a son, but not all 3 of them.
He had Abraham when he was 75.
Maybe.
Well, if he died and...
Right, but what do? When we get information, whether it's from Pastor Dewayne or from a slide, we got to study it for ourselves. I studied this for myself, and I will tell you, I don't really agree with it.
By this, yeah.
Okay. All right. There's a few points of discussion regarding Abraham's age on this timeline. The first question is, when was Abraham born? And there's some clues to help us out. All right? There's some clues. Now, I'm wanting to take this very slow so that you get an understanding, because I have found that when somebody tells you something is true, you'll repeat it for a while, but it's really not that significant. But when you understand the math behind an equation and you can do it for yourself, you give a man a fish, you'll feed him for a day, right? You teach them how to fish, they're good. I want to teach you how to do this, okay? All right. Genesis 11:26. Genesis 11:26. Okay, we just read that. And Terah lived 70 years and begat Abram, Nahor, and Haran. Genesis chapter 11, verse 32. Just a few verses down. And the days of Terah were 205 years, and Terah died in Haran. How old was Terah when he died? 205. Genesis 12, verse 4. So Abraham departed, as the Lord had spoken unto him, and Lot went with him. And Abram was 75 years old when he departed out of Haran. Where did Terah die in verse 32? Haran? How old was he when he died? 75. So, I'm going to go to the board now. If Terah was how old? 205, right? This is Terah. He died in Haran. Noah was how old? You get 130 if you subtract 75 from Terah's death age. Right? Everybody see that? So, what does that mean? What does that mean? Many people assume Abraham, at 75, left Haran after his father died. Right? That's kind of, when you read it, that's what you see. It says Terah was 205 years old. Abraham left after, it's mentioned Abraham left after that, he was 75. So if you subtract it, that tells you how old Terah was when Abraham was born. If Terah died in 2083, because we know when Terah was born based on that slide, right? Look at your sheet. 1878, that's when Terah was born. He lived 205 years, so he died in 2083. If you subtract 75 from that, right, Abraham would have been born in 2008. What does this sheet say? When was Abraham born? 2008. That's how they get that number. That's how they get that number, 2008. But does the Bible say that Abraham left after his father died? No. So it just says he was 75 when he left. So did Abraham leave before his father died and go on down to Canaan? That's an interesting question. Because, well, I don't want to tell you that yet. What if Noah would have left, what if Abraham, because in chapter 12, verse 1, now the Lord had said unto Abram, Get thee out of thy country and from thy kindred and from thy father's house unto a land that I will show thee. This is the first time we see God speaking to Abraham. The key word there is had. He had told him. You won't find before this where God had spoken to Abraham. But he had. If Abraham left with Terah and the family members, as we've read in the Bible before, right? They left the land of Ur and they went to Haran, and there they kind of settled down. Terah stayed there until he died. But if God told Abraham get out of your father's house and leave. What do you think happened when they were all traveling and Terah's like, hey, I like it here. I'm going to stay right here. Do you think Abraham's like, okay, God told me to leave your house, to get away from you and to leave all of this, but I'll stay with you until I'm 75. Does that sound like you're being obedient to God? Or do you think he would have said, look, Dad, I'm going on because this is not where I'm supposed to be?
But didn't he leave? He left because Lot. He did leave, didn't he?
Yeah, he did leave. He was 75. The Bible says he was 75 when he left Haran, right, with Lot and his all that he had acquired. Okay. But what if he'd have left 11 years earlier? The year would have been 2772, making Abraham born in 1997, 1,997 years after Adam. Okay? Who was still alive in 1997 or 1,997 years after Adam was created? Who was still alive? Look at your chart there. Who was still alive in the year 1,997? Who? Look all the way up. Who died in 2006? 2006 years. Noah died. Noah died 2006 years after Adam was created. Abraham, if he would have been born in 1997, was that before or after Noah died? Before. Quite a few years before, right? How about Shem? Shem got off the boat, right? Was he still alive when Abraham was around? Yes. Where do you think Abraham learned about God? Oh, I wonder. Well, you're speculating there, Pastor Dewayne. Am I? It said he had told Abraham to get out, right? So there was conversations going on before then. If he would have left 11 years before his father died in Haran, he could have been 9, 10 years old when Noah died. That's a lot to learn as a kid, ain't it? And then Shem, he's right there too with his father Noah.
Well, what Methuselah, was he still alive?
No, Methuselah died when the flood came.
Right, but you said there was 11, what was it, how many years?
1997 to 2006 is
9 years, yes. 9 years. So Noah could have been about 9. Noah was, I'm sorry, not Noah. Abraham would have been a very young child when Noah was still alive, if that was the case, right? What I'm saying is the Bible doesn't say that he would, because see, if his brother is older than him, that means at the 70-year mark, Terah had that older brother. Abraham came after that. And according to my numbers, he'd have been born, he would have been what, 130? At 130, Terah would have gave birth to him, 50 years later. So his brother would have been 50 years older, if you will. Okay. I know. I told you it would smoke. I told you it would smoke. Other facts about Abraham, okay? We're gonna come full circle here, okay? We're going to come full circle. Terah, his father, was a false god worshiper. True or false? Did Terah worship false gods? Was he a pagan? Did we read anything about that? Did y'all read anything here? It says his father. Yeah, I didn't see anything there about him being a false god worshiper. How about in Joshua chapter 24? Let's go to Joshua chapter 24. This is one of those that you really have to search out a treasure when you're looking for it. Joshua chapter 24, verse 2. Joshua chapter 24, verse 2. And Joshua said unto all the people, Thus saith the Lord God of Israel, Your fathers dwelt on the other side of the flood in old time, even Terah, the father of Abraham, and the father of Nahor, and they served other gods. This Bible tells me Abraham's father served false gods. Okay? That's a fact. We just confirmed it. All right. Haran died before Terah died, his son, right? Genesis 11:28. Genesis 11, verse 28. And Haran died before his father Terah in the land of his nativity in Ur of the Chaldees. So you had Abram, Nahor, and Haran. Those were the three sons of Terah. Terah was a false god worshiper. This verse here, verse 28, tells us Haran, one of his sons, died before his father Terah in the land of his nativity in Ur of the Chaldees. So in Ur, where they were born, that one son, Haran, died before Abraham and Terah and his families left to go to the other city, Haran, right? The name is Haran and the city they went to is Haran, but there's no association that I can find. I hate that they're named the same thing, but they are. Okay, so we know that that son died. Okay. In Genesis 12, verse 5. Genesis 12, verse 5. And Abram took Sarah his wife, and Lot his brother's son, and all their substance that they had gathered, and the souls that they had gotten in Haran, and they went forth to go into the land of Canaan, and to the land of Canaan they come. Who was Lot? His brother's son. That was Haran's son. See, Lot's father, Lot was traveling with Abraham. Why? Because his father died before they even left their original place in Ur. So that's why Abraham's nephew is traveling with them. Does that make sense? It's just some little facts we're throwing out there.
So Lot was Abraham's uncle.
Abraham was Lot's uncle. Correct. Correct. Abraham had a servant by the name of Eliezer. You do not find that until Genesis chapter 15, verse 2. And Abram said, Lord God, what wilt thou give me, seeing I go childless? And the steward of my house is this Eliezer of Damascus. So, again, I'm just throwing out some facts there. Eliezer was Abraham's servant from Damascus, right? Okay. Haran died. Abraham, his brother, went with his father Terah to the land of Haran. What happened to the third son, Nahor? It doesn't say he left with them. Nahor stayed behind. You will find out later as we read, when Abraham is about to die, he calls on Eliezer and says, put your hand under my thigh. Promise me you'll go back to my homeland, the land of Nahor, and get a bride for my son. So, Isaac's bride came from still the same family, but it was Abraham's brother that had stayed behind. So it'll make sense to you. If you'll go to the next slide.
Isaac's wife came from the land of Nahor.
Right, which is where Terah, Abram, Haran, they were all born. That's where they were born at. And he's like, go up there and get one from my original family up there. Yeah. That slide right there shows you the path that Abraham and Terah and Lot and their wives took. Over here is Ur, U-R, okay? That is in Iraq. I was stationed there. I've seen what they call Abraham's home. It was right by this big ziggurat where there was a false god worship. Makes sense, don't it?
That they put one there?
Yeah, and I had given y'all a graphic before. I mean, it's only a few hundred yards between Terah's house that he lived in and that big ziggurat where the false god worship happened. So when you see that Terah, Abraham's father, was a pagan worshiper, he lived right beside the huge temple. It makes sense. I saw it with my own eyes. But they went up through where Babylon, Mari, on up to Haran at the top up there. At 75 years old, Abraham, his nephew Lot, and his family started going down south towards Canaan. And that Canaan area down there, that's where Israel is today. That's where Israel was founded. That's the promised land. Okay? Why didn't they go straight across from Ur to Canaan? Desert. Yeah, that path that they took is known as the Fertile Crescent. You probably learned about it in school. That's the easiest way to go, right? The Fertile Crescent. There's food, there's water, there's places to stay. You go across that desert, you're dead. Especially back then, you're dead. I mean, you ain't going to survive it. Okay? There's a lot of pastors will tell you that Abraham was disobedient to God. He didn't go directly there. He didn't cross over. And I'm like, he couldn't. There's no way. I mean, if God tells you to go to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, are you going to take the road? Or are you going to walk straight as you possibly can through swamp, rivers? You won't do that. Yeah, Abraham weren't dumb. He went around. Now his father's like, hey, I like Haran. I'm going to hang out here. But I think because God had told him to depart, he departed his homeland. And when they got up there and his father's like, I think I'll settle here. I think Abraham's like, not me. God's told me to go on. He's going to show me a promised land. And I think he kept on going. I told you earlier it was the treasure of kings to search something out. That's in Proverbs chapter 25, verse 2. And it reads, it is the glory of God to conceal a thing. Does God hide some things, you think? But the honor of kings is to search out a matter. There are some people get bored to death with this stuff, but it's a treasure if you search it out.
Once you study something and see it and retain it, you don't forget it. Not like it's there. This helps me.
Here's what I want y'all to do, okay, because we can't keep going on. We were late getting started tonight, and I apologize. But here's what I want you to do. I want you to I want you to go back and find this on the video or whatever and look at it. Or if you got a handout too, you can take the handout and you can have my notes. I don't care. And take a look at these timelines. And I want you to ask yourself, could it be possible that Abraham did meet Noah and Shem? Was it possible? Was it plausible that they could have met? They were alive at the same time, right? So was it plausible? And why is God putting all this information in the Bible about these years and these times and these ages? And, where did Abraham learn about God? Where did he learn about Him? Okay? Did God just walk up to him one day randomly and say, hey, I'm going to make you Abraham and you're going to... why did he pick Abraham? Yeah. So I want you to look into that. And then look up the facts around Lot, about Ur. Do some research on Nimrod. Because guess who was a king during this time? Next week, we're going to put it all together. This was a data dump, is what this was. This was a lot of data. But if you want that treasure of kings, okay, study, search, go home, learn about Abraham and his early life and what was going on. And you might be surprised what you find out. You might be surprised. you may see and discover where you'll start to understand why Esau sold his birthright for soup. Because that just don't make sense to me. When you read it in the Bible, man, I'm tired and hungry. Hey, if you give me your birthright, I'll give you a bowl of soup. Okay. It doesn't make sense. Right? Doesn't make sense. There's a lot of things that are going on in the Bible that until you really understand them, they won't make sense. Anyways, I know it was a lot of data, and I'm so sorry it was so confusing, but it's the only way I know how to deliver it the best I can. Timeline, understanding it. I appreciate y'all's time and for coming out. I'm sorry for the delay tonight, and then we will pick this up next week. I do have a couple of copies of my notes, and there are extra notes in here that we're going to cover next week as well. So if y'all want to come and grab them, I got 2 of them, whoever wants them. Please do. And with that, if everybody would please stand up. Brother Trenton, will you close us out in prayer, please?